So believe it or not, I've actually been playing a good amount of the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. I know a lot of people might think that's strange because it's pretty much a tech demo that we had to pay $10 for. Well, I paid 7 gold points, baby. But it's one of the first games I actually really got to see how the mouse controls work. And I'm here to say that they are super smooth. Like, genuinely very much surprised me. It gave me PC vibes on a home console, which is something I never thought I'd feel, especially with a Nintendo console. But with that said, I kept thinking to myself the entire time, this would be an absolutely perfect thing for Super Mario Maker 3. So just like that, the Switch 2 Welcome Tour game literally just inspired an entire video about Mario Maker 3 once again, because it gets me so excited to see the potential that Mario Maker 3 can have simply with these mouse controls. And we pretty much assumed that we'd be getting another Mario Maker. I mean, after all, the series sells very, very well, and there's only 2 games in the franchise. And with that, Mario Maker 2 still had a lot of issues when it came to actually making levels. It wasn't as smooth or as intuitive as it was on the Wii U thanks to the Wii U gamepad and stylus, but now I feel like it's going to be just as good, if not even better than the gamepad and stylus, because yeah, the accuracy on this thing is as easy as just searching the web on your computer, and that makes me so excited for Mario Maker 3, because I have always said if we had Mario Maker on the PC, this would be a perfect tool. Now of course, I think this is bound to happen. It's just very clear to me why Nintendo even made the mouse mode function in the first place. I'm not saying they made it just for Mario Maker, but it would be the craziest thing in the world if Switch 2 didn't have some sort of Mario Maker 3. And I'm hoping it's not just a Switch 2 edition, because we definitely need a new game. Mario Maker 2, for a lot of people, myself included, felt more like a Mario Maker 1.5, where it added some updates, some new things, and one game style. But this time, I feel like they need to go big and add a bunch of stuff to truly make this feel like a sequel, well, in this case, a threequel. But what does Mario Maker 3 need to be extremely fun? Well, let's talk about it. First off, Mario Maker 3 needs way more game styles. I mean, it cannot just have one game style this time around, especially since the one that we had, Mario 3D World, was so watered down in Mario Maker 2. If this is a 2D game, which I'll talk more about that towards the end of this video, it needs to have at least, and I mean at the very least, 2 more game styles. But I'm expecting more around the lines of 3 or even 4, giving us a total of like 7 or 8. And what's so crazy about this is there's so many classic and even newer game styles that they can choose from. Not to mention, it seems like 3D game styles are now at play as 3D World got added. So you could have cool Mario acrobatics, mobility, and mechanics. Like, it absolutely blows my mind how we didn't get any sort of Super Mario Galaxy style before 3D World. I mean, Mario Galaxy has so many levels that actually have 2D level designs in them. So it actually is kind of strange how they couldn't have, you know, a Maker style that's based on gravity mechanics and the spin from Super Mario Galaxy, and maybe even the pointer if you wanted to use that as well. Even something like Super Mario Odyssey would have worked really, really well, having the capture mechanic. And even if they don't want to have to program tons of capture mechanics, all they have to do is just have Mario be able to throw his hat and dive off of it and stuff. And you can make tons of levels based off of him rolling, diving, sliding, because his moveset is so fluid and smooth in that game. Of course, the no-brainer in the room, Mario Wonder. That just recently came out, so having, you know, unlimited amounts of levels with the Wonder style would be perfect, because there's so much potential for that game. And I feel like they did a lot of great things in that game, but there was still a lot of potential, or should I say untapped potential with that game. For instance, they could just give you 3 or 4 wonder effects that you can place in any level that has like basic effects, so that way it's not super hard to program. But yeah, just give you lots of the course parts, abilities like the drill mushroom and the bubble flower and even the elephant apple, and you're good to go. I mean, they could really have some cool course parts with that style alone. I mean, they could even go back in time, and there's still tons of classic Mario games that could be styles. Like, how do we still not have Mario Brothers 2? It just genuinely doesn't make any sense. Something else I want to include is that any new game styles that they add need to be fully fleshed out. Like, genuinely, if they only add 2 game styles, but they are full-fledged game styles with tons of content in them, I won't be upset. But they have to flesh these things out and really give us a reason to choose this game style. Unfortunately, I wanted to use Mario 3D World style way more often in Mario Maker 2. The fact that you could hardly theme a level with no backdrops and the very limited amount of gizmos and objects that you could place in the stage with this game style was just significantly so low, I didn't even bother with this game style 90% of the time. So please, if every other mode has tons of backdrops and objects and enemies, make sure that your other game styles have just as much, if not more, as well. Now, obviously, we'll be getting tons of new course parts, power-ups, and objects to place in our levels, but personally, I need way more enemies this time around. Like, there are so many Mario enemies that are just still missing from Mario Maker, and so little ways to customize them. I know with some enemies you can give them a fire flower and it changes them, but I wish that there was way more options. It should feel like there's almost unlimited options with all the items and all the enemies in the game. Allow us to experiment and combine course parts and items with enemies in order to transform them and change them into something from past games, or maybe even something unique for Mario Maker alone. Like, you're telling me I can't place a bullet bill underwater and get a torpedo Ted? You're telling me I can't click on a hammer bro and give him fire, ice, and boomerang powers as well? Or maybe even turn him into a sledge bro? Over the years, the Mario franchise has accumulated some insane enemies, and a lot of them are spread throughout the entire Mario franchise and are not just tied to one specific game style. And even if it is, you've clearly seen that Nintendo can make custom enemy designs for each of those game styles as well, so it's not going to be a big issue. I do see it being a lot of work, though, to make new enemy designs for all the game styles, especially if there's like 8 and you have a total of like 200 different enemies. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Kind of along with enemies as well, there needs to be better boss battles. Like, the Koopalings was a cool addition, but for the most part, it's just them, Bowser, and Bowser Jr. That's really about it. Like, I could make this a big complaint, but then when you look at, the recent Mario games that we have gotten, they are not good with boss battles, and it kind of extends into Nintendo as a whole. Like, that's for another video. But yeah, I mean, maybe bring some customized enemies into bosses like they did with New Super Mario Bros. DS, with the Mummy Pokey and the Monty Mole Tank, and even the Lack of Thunder. I mean, there's so many in that game. Just do that with more of the enemies, or allow us to. Maybe you just grab an enemy and shake them, and then they can turn into a boss variant. Like, you shake a Goomba, he turns into King Goomba. You know what I mean? Something like that would be pretty cool, just to have an option to make some of these enemies into actually 3-hit bosses. Right now, and when the game first came out, players just immediately try to make their own unique boss battles out of course parts, which looks pretty jank. You're either just hitting a switch or have to hit a certain block on him, but maybe Nintendo can make it so that we can actually create bosses. What if we can actually have a boss maker in this game, where we can actually make a boss battle, upload it, and maybe people can actually pull that boss and put it into their own levels? Something like that would be really cool, where you can combine enemies or items or different course parts and actually make a boss. Maybe there's little weak points that Nintendo can give us in order to place into the boss and have the course parts move together as one giant unit, so that way boss battles can be custom and we can place some down as pre-made enemy objects as well. But either way, we definitely need more boss options. I feel like the level searching needs more work. It's not terrible right now, but I feel like there's always a better way that they could do this. For instance, I still think making an iPhone app would be the best possible way, and it's just the craziest idea that I cannot believe Nintendo has not come up with, because it's just so simple. Have a smartphone app where when you're on the go, whether you're at work or just away from the house, you won't necessarily need a Wi-Fi connection. You'll have your LTE broadband on your phone, and you can just search and find levels, or recommendations of levels will pop up in your feed, and you can save them. It'll immediately shoot them over to your Nintendo Switch 2 when you get home, and you'll have like a list of levels that you can play. That would be so cool for people at work, or maybe on their lunch break, and they're just like looking through levels saying, I want to play these when I get home. So that way you can just come home, relax, unwind, and play the levels that you saved on your phone. Like, Nintendo, this is just too easy. Make this happen. But there also should be better categories for searching levels as well. Maybe you can search levels that have specific themes, like maybe they're themed after Mario Sunshine or Galaxy or some other sort of past game or some other Nintendo IP. But I feel like better themes and parameters will make it easier for people to find the exact levels that they're looking for. But on the same topic of finding levels, I think there needs to be better ways to create thumbnail arts for your stages. Now, a lot of the time you have to have like a dedicated section of your stage sectioned off so that way you can make some art, because yes, it's just like YouTube. People are going to click on the video or the level that has the coolest looking art or something that draws your attention in. It's just how life works, and there needs to be a way for maybe us to have a thumbnail maker or some sort of like special thing where we can just decorate, and maybe it's not even just for thumbnails. Maybe we just want to make some art, like an art station where you can make some block art and stuff, but something that you can actually use. You can take a little picture of it and use it as your thumbnails and uploads. Or maybe Nintendo finally allows us to put up our own uploads, make our own thumbnails via whatever software we want to use. Of course, it would have to be Nintendo safe checked before it actually uploads, because this would stop people from posting inappropriate things like they probably would. But this could just be checked by Nintendo through like an automated system or something, and it'll take like a couple of minutes minutes before you can actually post it, similar to the way YouTube does before you upload a thumbnail on YouTube. And there just honestly needs to be better ways to search up a user. For instance, if you want to just follow a certain account or a certain person, and then it can like give you notifications whenever they upload a level, and that way you can just be in the loop. For instance, if I make a lot of levels, like a couple every week, that way you guys can actually follow me almost like it's its own social media feed, and you can follow me, be updated whenever I post new levels, so that way you guys can be the first ones to jump on them, play them, try them out, and try to beat them. My heart was absolutely ripped out of my chest when I heard that Nintendo would not be bringing back the Amiibo costumes from Mario Maker 1. It was so cool to have all these 8-bit sprites of all these famous Nintendo characters, and you could actually build levels based around those characters. And I know it's just a skin, it doesn't necessarily change Mario's moveset at all, it adds a little, pose that you can do, but still, it would have been so cool to have these back again and make levels that are designed and based around these characters. It just was really cool to me. Now, I do believe one of the main issues is that people were just making nothing but the original Super Mario Bros. Themed levels, and that's just because you could only use these costumes in the Mario Bros. 1 game style, so maybe the servers were just being flooded with nothing but Mario Bros. 1 style levels instead of the other styles, and Nintendo wanted them to branch out and see more other game styles. Who knows? But either way, what I think they should actually do is to give us more special items. If eventually Nintendo wants to move on to like a Metroid Maker, or maybe even a Zelda Maker with a Dungeon Maker or something along those lines, wouldn't it be cool to kind of like test the waters a little bit, even if it's not in the same game style or format that Mario is in? For instance, I know 2D Zelda is more top-down. We haven't had a straight-up 2D Zelda since like Adventures of Link. But it was very strange that they just added one of these items. I was kind of thinking they'd add a couple more at least. It'd be really cool to play some levels with these movesets that some of these characters have. Imagine a Samus one that actually allows you to roll around in a ball and have some of her moves like shooting beams, missiles, dropping bombs, and just some of her movesets like running in her super sprint where she can jump and use her screw attack in order to cross large gaps. There could be so much potential with just a Samus character power-up in this game. Maybe you can have Kirby where he can inhale some enemies and objects and actually turn into some of them. It'd be a lot to program, not everything that he could turn into, but a good chunk. Or maybe Olimar where he could chuck Pikmin at enemies like a projectile, almost like the Fire Flower. And maybe once again, instead of it always being in that Mario Bros. 1 game style, maybe some of these special items are in different game styles. Maybe for instance, you can only get the Link Master Sword item within Mario Bros. 1, but you can only get the Metroid item in Super Mario World's game style. So that way it encourages you to play different game styles in order to use those different items and weapons. That would be so awesome. Nintendo has this weird thing where they have some games with amazing soundtracks, but we can't choose what plays and when it plays. Like for instance, Donkey Kong Bonanza has a jukebox where you can play CDs whenever you want, well, based on the location. Surprisingly enough, Mario Kart World doesn't have a jukebox for its amazing soundtrack. So I would love to see more options to add different music pieces to our Mario Maker levels. There's a couple right now based on some specific games, but I want a list, man. I'm like literally just drop of like 20 songs per every Mario game, so that way we can just go through, choose a specific song that matches our stage the best and use it. Because I think the process of how it works in Mario Maker 2 is already stupid, where you just kind of like put these stamps down on specific parts of the stage where the music will play. I just want a jukebox where you can just turn on a music track that plays the entirety of that stage or that sub-level, so that way when you go into another sub-level, a different song will play. It'd be really cool if we can make other things that aren't just levels, maybe like little mini games, like little WarioWare mini games, not necessarily to the extent of that game, like that WarioWare Maker game. I'm not talking about that, like where you have to actually program things to work right. I'm just talking about like little tiny levels. I mean, you can already upload little tiny levels, but what if there's just like a category or a section for mini games that you can create? Like you just jump into the level and you just play this little mini game, or maybe, since this is a dedicated mode, you can put together like 20 mini games from different users and just play all through them one after the other really quickly. That could be really cool as well. Kind of like the 100-man Mario that used to be in the original Mario Maker that didn't return in Mario Maker 2. This time you can have like 100-man Mario mini games where, you get like 100 Marios and you got to complete like 20 to 50 Mario Maker mini games that people have created, where maybe it's just like hit all the blocks on this screen before the time runs out and you just have one screen to go through. Or maybe it's like take all the enemies out in this room. Kind of like the bonus challenge missions in Mario Wonder or even Mario 3D World with like the Mystery Mouse Mayhem mayhem, giving us a bunch of little mini missions here and there. Of course, we need more themes for these styles. There's some that still kind of surprises me that they haven't added, because they've been in some of the earliest new Super Mario Bros. Games and even some classic Mario Bros. Games. Like, how in the world do we not have a mountain theme, or let alone a beach style? Like, the beach one is really what surprises me the most, because it just makes the most sense. Have some small amounts of water at the bottom that you can maybe raise a little bit more than the other. But like, how do we not have a beach style? Or maybe a volcano theme. We have Bowser's Castle that does have lava in it, but I'm talking more of a theme that's maybe outside with falling lava rocks and stuff, like true volcanic lava-themed area that's not necessarily a Bowser-themed castle. There's still so many more themes that they could add. Maybe one based on sweets, or like a city, or oriental theme, maybe one like on a circus. There's so many options still, and they could even come up with some that maybe have not been done yet before. I don't know what they would be, but yeah, there's so many options. I want extra sub-levels as well that maybe gives us extra themes also. Like, we're only allowed, I think, one sub-level, which gives us 2 total themes in one level, but I want to have like maybe a room of 3 or 4 different pipes where we can go in and have 3 or 4 different sub-levels with 3 or 4 different themes in one singular level. It might sound unreasonable and something that probably isn't going to happen, but still, I think it would be pretty cool. And imagine if we were able to actually change the style as well if we went through one pipe and came out the other. Now, it would have to be one that works with the other. Like, for instance, all the classic ones. I'm not saying I want to go into a pipe as 8-bit Mario and come out as Cat Mario from 3D World. I'm just saying, like, it'd be cool to maybe jump in as Super Mario Bros. 1 Mario and come out as Super Mario World Mario, and Mario Bros. 3 Mario into Mario Bros. 1 Mario, something like that. And even throw in classic 8-bit Mario to new Super Mario Bros. Mario. I think those would work really well, because they already work with their course parts, and they all work with each other. When you go to change the theme or style, you don't have to actually back out and recreate it from scratch like you do with the 3D World style. And a couple more things I would love to see them add. Maybe some signs in the levels. I know you can actually write comments, and people can write comments in specific spots, but I want the creator to have like maybe little picket fence signs, little pieces of wood that sticks out of the ground and just has some words on it, something, so that way maybe we can write hints or give context as to what the players are supposed to do, or maybe even just have your own little story elements where you can actually have a story for your levels and for your world that you create, so that way you can paint a clearer picture for other players for what your world is supposed to represent. I also would like to see more time of day options. You can actually turn it into night right now, but what it does is it actually just changes mechanics, like it makes it super dark or zero gravity or upside down. I don't necessarily want mechanics to change. I just want to be able to play levels, you know, in the daytime, in the nighttime, sunrise or sunset, which would probably be the same in a 2D game, but you know what I mean. Just something to kind of give different vibes for your levels as well. And I would love more backdrop options, as well as the day and night cycles and the themes that you can pick for the stages. I know there's certain platforms that you can place to give your levels backdrops, but I wish they were just like non-platforming options that you can do. Like, you can just decorate the background a little bit by putting like a little piece of wallpaper here or there to change the, you know, style of the way the level looks, because a lot of the time I don't even use those platforms. I just want to use the design that those platforms leave behind in order to give my level more aesthetic. I'd also maybe like to see more playable characters from the Mario franchise, like Wario and Waluigi would be pretty cool, or maybe just different costumes and outfits for the playable characters as well throughout the different game styles would be an awesome addition. And before I get to my final thing, something else we desperately need is updates. Yeah, they need to update this game more than just 1 or 2 updates like they did with Mario Maker 2. It blows my mind that Nintendo didn't continuously update Mario Maker 2. It still felt like there was lots of room for new enemies, items, objects, and core styles and themes and even parts. And of course, that whole style debacle where they had an open slot and never used it just completely is still unused. So please, add some updates, Nintendo. Keep this game alive well after release, so that way people can keep coming back to it, trying out the new course parts and pieces, because sometimes adding just a simple new object is way more than enough to just add some new content ideas and level design ideas for creators. And last but not least, of course, I bring this up every time, 3D Mario Maker. It kind of pains me because making this video, I had more intention on talking about this, but looking at all the possibilities that Nintendo could actually do with another 2D Mario Maker, it really doesn't make too much sense to move straight into 3D Mario Maker yet, which it pains me to say, because I still think 3D Mario Maker could be one of the best ideas that Nintendo has ever come up with. There's so much potential, and there's already a Mario 64 Maker as a mod out there right now that you can play, where it works really really well, where you can create this giant 3D obstacle course and place a star somewhere in that course for you to reach. That's as simple as Nintendo needs to make it, and they could do this with multiple different game styles, with 64, Sunshine, maybe even Galaxy with gravity mechanics, even 3D World, shoot, even Odyssey could have something similar to this, just swapping out the star for a power moon, and obviously the star for a shine sprite in Super Mario Sunshine. But something like this, I think, would feed players non-stop, because this already feels like Mario Maker is endless with just 2D levels, but could you imagine how endless a game would feel with 3D levels as well? Now, maybe this is just starts off as a super small additional mode that's in a 2D Mario Maker. Maybe Mario Maker 3 is all 2D worlds and styles, but instead it is a whole separate mode with one specific game style dedicated to 3D levels, you know, and it's just 64, or maybe it's just 3D worlds, something along those lines would be so cool. And if Nintendo finds that people really love it, which, let's face it, they definitely will. It's Mario Maker, but 3D. I mean, what's not to love unless it's just completely broken? Then Nintendo can move further with it in the future and maybe eventually have their own spin-off for Mario Maker being Mario Maker 3D. And then they could have 2 different types of Mario Makers that come out every 5 years. Who knows? I don't know. I'm getting out of control here. But what I'm just trying to say is I think a 3D Mario Maker would work absolutely perfectly fine. It's possible right now. Like I said, people are creating levels with tools right now with that in mind. So yeah, I think some really cool things could come out of that, and I'm just hoping that Nintendo was thinking that same thing as well, especially if the next 3D Mario is going to be open world like a lot of us are expecting it to be. This would be a great way for fans to still have that classic platforming action of 3D Mario that they've missed from the days of 64 and Sunshine. But with that, that's pretty much all my ideas for Mario Maker 3. I think there's still so much potential for even more 2D elements that Nintendo's going to grow this franchise for many, many years. It's still a baby and in the smallest form, because it just started, so there's so much potential for this franchise to grow and for them to do some crazy good things with it. But what do you want to see in Mario Maker 3? Do you want it to be 3D or 2D? And either way, what do you want to see added into the game with those game styles? Definitely let me know down below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Mario Maker and Nintendo in general. And like always, I will see you all in the next one, and I hope you all have a blessed day. See you guys.